Hello, everyone. Hi, Catherine. Hi, Nina, Marianne, and Daphne. Good to see you all here. And whoever else is here too, I'm sure. Can't tell how many people are on. 5 so far. Anyway, good to see you all. Start with the verse of the Kesa. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Vast is the robe of liberation, a formless field of benefaction. I wear the Tathagata's teaching, freeing all creations. Gata of Atonement. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. All evil karma ever committed by me since of old, on account of my beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and thought, now I atone for it all. Fragrance of this incense invites the awakened mind to be present with us now. Fragrance of this incense fills our room, protects and guards our minds from wrong thinking. The fragrance of this incense unites us with precepts, concentration, and insight. We offer it for all beings. Well, it's walking around in circles. Homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I go to the Buddha for guidance. I shall become one with the Buddha. I resolve that I shall each day follow the way of life he laid down for us to walk and awaken to his supreme wisdom. I go to the Dharma for guidance. I shall become one with the Dharma. The gates of Dharma are manifold. I vow to enter them all. The goal of wisdom is ever beyond. I shall attain it. I go to the Sangha for guidance. I shall become one with the Sangha in the spirit of universal fellowship, and as a member of the Sangha, I pledge myself to strive for the enlightenment of all beings. The Metta Sutta. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings. Radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies and downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, sitting or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into the world of suffering. May I be happy and well. May no harm come to me. May I learn compassion. May all my friends, family, and those I love be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those troubled in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those who have hurt me in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all those I have hurt in body, mind, and spirit be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. May all living beings be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. Did I skip enemies? Just to be on the safe side. May all my enemies be happy and well. May no harm come to them. May they learn compassion. "20-minute silent meditation tonight. If you want to mute the sound, I'll start the 20 minutes right now. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, existing right here now, and offering flowers, candles, and incense, hearing the Dharma and training the mind, great merit is attained. We dedicate this merit to the great Master Shakyamuni Buddha, the all-pervading and everlasting three treasures, to the 16 guardians and all protectors of the Dharma and their creations throughout space and time, to all ancestors of the Sangha and all beings in the Dharma world. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance, that all karma be resolved in the mind, flower, bloom, and eternal spring. May the Dharma body maintain strength and health, and years of life be lengthened for all teachers of this Sangha. May their vows be fully realized, and may they live in perfect peace with Buddha Dharma. We pray for those suffering from violence and those who grieve for them, for those living in oppression, for all who are imprisoned who should be free, for all refugees from violence, hunger, and catastrophe, man-made or natural. We pray for the health and well-being of those suffering from diseases of body, mind, or spirit, those working toward the healing of those afflictions. We pray for those suffering from COVID-19, those working to protect and treat them, and to those grieving, to those lost to this pandemic. May they be serene through all their troubles, and may we realize the enlightened way together. Sabe sata sada hantu avera sukajivino katang punya phalang maiham sabe bagi bhavantu te. May all beings always live happily, free from animosity. May all share in the blessings that spring from the good we have done. With my new glasses, I can see to read. I can see at a distance, but computer distance is in between those. So that's why I take my glasses off when I sit down at this distance from the computer, in case you were wondering. Let's see. Before I start in on the talk, I'll be back at White Sands Sunday, continuing through the Diamond Sutra on Thursdays. I'm enjoying it. Hope those of you who are coming are getting something out of it. I'm enjoying that process very much, actually. Yeah, nothing really else to say. So I've been working through the Book of Joy, Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. And so I'm not working my way through the whole book, but through the 8 foundations of joy, which I'm finding really interesting. I hope you are too. So the third foundation of joy is humor. And I'm going to read you a little bit of what Archbishop Tutu said about this. He said, I'm just thinking that we're so very apt to belittle others because we are also unsure of ourselves. And we think that the best way of asserting who we are is by putting you down. Whereas this kind of humor is talking about the kind of humor that he and the Dalai Lama share, says, come stand next to me and let's laugh at me together. I like that. Come stand next to me and let's laugh at me together. And then we can laugh at you together. Does not belittle either of us, but uplifts us, allows us to recognize and laugh about our shared humanity, about our shared vulnerabilities, our shared frailties. Life is hard, and laughter is how we come to terms with all the ironies and cruelties and uncertainties that we face. And then a little bit later on, he says, I don't think I woke up one day and presto, I was funny. I think it is something that you can cultivate, like anything else, it's a skill. Yes, it does help if you have the inclination, and especially you can laugh at yourself. So learn to laugh at yourself. It's really the easiest place to begin. It's about humility. Laugh at yourself and don't be so pompous or serious. If you start looking for the humor in life, you will find it. You will stop asking, why me? And start recognizing that life happens to all of us. It makes everything easier, including your ability to accept others and accept all that life will bring. I gotta tell you, that's good stuff, I think. So I enjoy using humor in Dharma talks. And we talked about this last week. I mentioned that I was going to be talking about humor. And I think I suggested, or maybe it was Thursday night, we had this conversation. I can't remember. But I suggested looking up Ajahn Brahm. Ajahn Brahm, if you wanted to see how, you could use humor to teach the Dharma and how it could be very informative. Let me type that in chat because he's got a YouTube channel. And he's very funny. And if I get inspired to do so, I'll probably tell you one of his stories tonight. So when I first got inducted into Bright Dawn, finished the ministry training program, the seminary program, for lack of a better term, and went out there and got the ordination in Bright Dawn. When I got back, I sent out letters to a bunch of the UU congregations, Unitarian Universalists, for those of you who don't know, and said, hey, I'm here and I'd like to come talk to you if you'd like to hear from a Buddhist. So I started getting responses pretty quickly. And so one of the first ones I got was from the UU congregation here in DeLand. And they were in a different location at the time, but it's the one where we were meeting for many years. We were meeting there. And we were meeting there at the time, but I don't think I'd ever given a talk to them or anything. Hadn't occurred to them or hadn't occurred to me anyway. So they wanted to hear from me. And so arranged to come there. And the topic was going to be engaged Buddhism, which is, Buddhism with a purpose, Buddhism with a social purpose. And Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, I think, probably coined the term engaged Buddhism, where it was first coined about him, using Buddha social change as a part of your practice. Because, he started out after he had to leave Vietnam, well, even while he was still in Vietnam, going to other countries and stuff and trying to point out what was going on in Vietnam, which was very, there was a lot of suffering at that time. This was even before the war, but there was a lot of misery, a lot of bad behavior on the part of power structure and so on. And so he was trying to use his Buddhist practice as a way to change society. So anyway, so I was going to talk about engaged Buddhism a bit. And as I was getting to the church that Sunday morning, I was getting out of the car and I realized that it was Martin Luther King Day weekend. In other words, the next day, Monday, was Martin Luther King Day. And so in previous years, I was often visiting some of the historically black churches in the area during that weekend, because they had special services and things like that, and it wasn't just historically black churches either. There were sort of sort of non-denominational councils and ministerial councils that would get together and do stuff over that weekend and that kind of thing. So I knew that particular Sunday morning was a big deal in a lot of churches. And so when it came time for me to give my sermon, I stood up and thanked them for having me. And I said, this is Martin Luther King Day weekend. And right about now, in every church in America, the best possible speakers are standing up and giving the best imaginable sermons. And I'm sorry you're not going to hear that today. Because I mean, I'm going to do the best I can, right? But it's not. I was not one of the best speakers in town by any means at that point, and still not like some of those guys for sure. But anyway, got a good laugh, and so I gave my talk, which is it's fairly heavy duty stuff. It was a lot of stuff about compassion and about change. Changing society, but without messing up your heart in the process and that kind of thing. I don't remember exactly what all I said, but I managed, to get a few laughs here and there because kind of need to. Otherwise, it's very heavy going. And so, and afterward, somebody came up to me and said, you're actually a very good speaker. Well, maybe I was the only one who started you off, making you laugh about something. At any rate, it occurred, there was a bit of a teaching there, and that was really driven home the first time. I think it was the first time I spoke in Palaca. I don't remember for sure, but I had my bio, and they wanted my bio, and so if I put all of my credentials in there out at once. There's several different languages, and even at that point, I didn't have any Vietnamese stuff yet, but Jodo Shinshu, and I'd been a Thai monk in the Theravada monk in the Thai order at Wat Florida Dhammaram and Kissimmee, and I had a Japanese Dharma name too, and and all this kind of stuff. And so they had asked for my bio, and so the person interviewing me or introducing me is stumbling through all of this crap in 5 different languages, And so, and I got up to speak. She was just really kind of embarrassed. And she said, I'm so sorry. I know I messed that up. And I said, you did good. Most people mispronounce Kissimmee, which if you're in Florida, you laughed at that. If you're not, then you have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. But, a lot of people who come to Florida from elsewhere, which is most people who come to Florida, obviously. Kissimmee is down by Disney World, and it looks like Kissimmee, so people are always mispronouncing it, and the natives think that's hilarious. So anyway, that got a laugh when I said most people mispronounce Kissimmee, and and we ended up and with that particular talk. We had a good time. And at the end, a woman comes up to me and goes, oh, thank you. That was such a good message. And she goes, but I didn't expect you to have a sense of humor because, I'm a Buddhist. I'm enlightened or something. I can't possibly have a sense of humor. But the reality is, when we're not hanging on to a lot of crap, when we're not carrying a bunch of junk around our necks all the time, we're free to laugh. And a big part of the practice is recognizing, the degree to which you've been generating your own suffering and how dumb some of that is. And if you can't laugh at that, it's going to make you feel really bad. I thought about this last night. So there's one of the people who's had a lot of impact on my life, as many of you know, was Albert Ellis, who was a psychologist. He's kind of the father of modern psychology. A lot of people call him that. I'm sure of a lot of other psychologists that are among his contemporaries don't call him that, but he really he developed he created rational emotive behavior therapy, which was probably the first certainly one of the first, but probably the first of what we consider like the cognitive therapies. The idea being that if you change, that your thoughts are a big part of creating suffering. In psychology, we might call that neurosis or emotional upset or something like that. Buddhism, we call it dukkha. But anyway, the thoughts that you have are very much part of creating that. And so when you start to really recognize that, it can be a little bit of a challenge at first when you start seeing, oh, the reason I'm so pissed off is because I think these stupid thoughts that piss me off. It's not because of this thing that I'm mad about. It's because of this thing that I do. That being pissed off is all on my part. In Buddhism, we talk about that all the time too. Ajahn Chah gave a fairly famous Dharma talk once where somebody had apparently given him a thermos bottle. This was a long time ago. And as an offering, had given him a thermos bottle. He was fascinated by it, by the fact that, he put something hot in it, it stayed hot, put something cold in it, it stayed cold, And I guess it was on the dais with him because he picked it up and he starts talking about his thermos bottle. And he says, if you love it, that's all on you. If you hate it, that's all on you. The thermos bottle doesn't have anything to do with it. You can hate it all you want to, doesn't affect the thermos bottle. Love it all you want to, doesn't affect the thermos bottle, and it doesn't make you love or hate. And which is kind of, it's kind of interesting the way we generate these thoughts. And so if you can laugh at your participation in that process, it makes it a lot easier to work with. So I was thinking about this last night. So I'm at the university. We've started a smart recovery groups. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that, but it's it's a program for people who are recovering or thinking about recovering from any addiction, any dependency, any behavior that is taking up too much space in your life and that you're having difficulty not doing. Put it bluntly, mildly. So we had an information meeting, and as part of the thing, there were some students who were kind of helping put this thing on, and I had talked to them before, and I said, I'm going to ask for participation if nobody else jumps on it. One of you needs to do this, And so I asked, is anybody upset about something that we can do an ABC with? There's this process in RIBT, the ABCs. And what you do is the B is the belief, basically the pattern of thinking that's creating the upset. And it's always, so some people, when you point out that, like in this particular case, there was anxiety, when you point out that the anxiety is the result of you thinking a certain thing, some people, that's like, oh, how cool. I can stop thinking that and I won't feel anxiety. Some people go, oh, I must be an idiot. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, it sort of depends on like where you're at in your spiritual path, number one. And number two is like kind of, are you tending to self-down? Do you tend to beat up on yourself? If you tend to beat up on yourself, then you're, the fact that you recognize that your thinking is a part of your problem is just going to give you something else to beat up on yourself about. But if you can laugh at it, then it makes it a lot easier to do. And so when I introduce these to somebody the first time, especially, I always make sure that I include myself in this process. I use myself as an example. So I'm not saying, oh, look at this stupid thing you think, right? Is, oh, look at how stupid I am, right? And laugh at that. And then the other person can go, yeah, I do these things too, and I can laugh at that rather than engage in self-hatred about it. And it's very much, I mean, when I was looking at for an excerpt from this book, and thinking about that, is very much our about our recognize and laugh about our shared humanity, our shared vulnerabilities, our shared frailties. Laughter is how we come to terms with all the ironies and cruelties and uncertainties that we face. It reminded me of that thing last night. We can recognize that we share this, and then we can lighten up about it. Then, then that's very useful. The Buddha was actually, I think he was pretty good about using humor. And, you read the Lotus Sutra or something like that, or the Diamond Sutra, for God's sake, unless you take the whole thing as a joke. It's not real apparent in some of them. And part of that is because it's culturally different. What got me thinking about this several years ago, I gave a couple of talks about the Buddha and what a funny guy he was. And what gave me the idea really was that I was reading something. I happened to stumble across this article by a Christian biblical scholar who was talking about how funny Jesus was. Now, not in a disparaging way, but how he used humor to make points. And I don't remember too many of the details. The one that stuck out that I still recall was the whole you notice the speck in your neighbor's eye and manage to not see the beam in your own eye. So you see a little dust speck in your friend's eye, but you can't see that your own eye has got like a log sticking out of it. Apparently, 2,000 years ago, if you spoke Aramaic, I think that's what Jesus spoke, that would have been really funny. And it is kind of funny. I mean, it's clever. Hey, look, you see this little thing, but you can't see this big thing about yourself, which, you could do a whole talk on that, because we're very good at judging other people. We're not real good at, at acknowledging some of our own issues, unless we're the kind of person who beats up on herself about anything, in which case, there's that. But so I started thinking about the Buddha and things that he said that were probably intended to be kind of funny. And the kind of the most dramatic one that comes to mind is he was talking about monks who, I guess a bunch of monks had gone on an alms round, and they were comparing, there's a gnat flying around in here. They were comparing who got the most stuff, because this is a big deal. People love to see me coming. They want to hear a talk from me, so they'll invite me, and they'll make sure they give me really good food or whatever, or I'm so good, the best people invite me around and stuff. And so I guess some of this stuff was going on, and the Buddha figured, well, I need to address this. And so he got some monks together, and he starts talking about dung beetles. And he says, dung beetle, man, imagine a really good dung beetle. He's got big piles of dung around him. He can sit around and think, what a great dung beetle I am. How lucky I am that I have these big piles of poop that I've accumulated. And look at how rich I am with all this poop. And then he said, that's what these monks are like, who are, going out and bragging about how much they collect on their alms rounds and stuff like that. I mean, that really, I'm sure that got a laugh. Maybe not so much from the monks who'd been bragging about how successful they were on the alms rounds. Hopefully they recognized this humor in that and said, yeah, silly me. I was attaching to something that is not worth attaching to. Hopefully that's the way they would see it. Another one would be, when he talks about the importance of practicing. And, you can say, well, life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Each of us must strive to awaken. Take heed. Do not squander this life. That's not at all funny. It's beautiful, and I say it in services sometimes and that kind of thing, but it's not funny. But if you say, you should practice as if your turban is on fire, because, we are all facing difficulties. One point or another, we're all facing difficulties. We may not know it, but if we practiced as if our head was on fire, we would take that very seriously. And, he used that discourse, and I think that that's effective. I mentioned Ajahn Brahm. He told a story that I've borrowed a number of times, about when he first got to Australia, or first set up the monastery where he is in Australia, and how he realized there was a prison down the street. And so he had gone down to talk to the warden and said, hey, would you let me come in and teach meditation here? And they talked to the warden about why that might be a good idea. And the warden agreed, yeah, that's a good idea. And so, he invited him to come in. So the appointed day came, and he came to the prison, and they said, man, it's amazing. Everyone wants to hear you talk about meditation. We had to wait until the chow hall was cleared out, or however they put it, and basically until they had a big enough space that they could get everybody in, because the whole compound wanted to hear this monk from down the street talk about meditation. And so he started out talking about meditation, how you do it, why you do it, and that kind of thing. And so at some point he stopped and he asked, were there any questions? And this guy said, yeah, I understand that if you meditate, you can learn to meditate, you can learn to levitate. Is this true? And Ajahn Brahm said, well, there are stories of people learning to levitate. I've never seen it. I don't know how to teach it. I don't know how to do it. He said, but, there's ancient stories about it, but that's not really what we do this for. There's better benefits, and et cetera, et cetera. And so the next week he came back, and there were 3 guys there because everybody wanted to learn how to meditate, thinking they could float over the walls. Anyway, so I'm going to wrap up. I'm going to wrap up with a story. So this guy decided he was going to ordain. And he decided he was going to ordain in a very, very strict, rigorous monastic tradition. And so this particular tradition, they take a vow of silence when they go in. And so it's like being on an endless silent retreat. Once a year, you have a one-on-one with the abbot, your teacher. And during that one-on-one, you're allowed to say 2 words. So this guy went in, he ordained, he was doing all the stuff, took the robes and doing all the services and all the prayer and all that kind of stuff. And then the end of his first year came, and he went in for his one-on-one with the abbot. And he said, bed hard. And the abbot dismissed him, and he went on his way. So he went back to practicing, doing the whole thing all year long, all the prayers and the tasks and everything. And the end of his second year comes, and he goes in for his one-on-one with the abbot. And he sits down, and they bow to each other and all that. And he says, food cold. And the abbot sends him on his way. He goes back, and he does all of his stuff, And after another year of that, he comes back. He sits down across from the abbot. They bow to each other. And he says, I quit. And it says, well, I'm not surprised. You haven't done anything but complain since you got here anyway. Anyway, I hope you're laughing. The problem with giving a talk like this to a screen is I don't know if anybody's enjoying it or not, but hopefully it was interesting and amusing and in some way useful, and that you will look for opportunities to laugh in your life because that's a really important thing. So thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'll see you tomorrow or Sunday or next week. Have a good night.